Welcome friends, those who are preparing for PGT, TGT for English subject, either it may be KBS or NVS exam, please have a look at all these notes, because all these notes what I have prepared for from 5 or 6 literature books, from different literature books, such as like I have done close overview of History of English Literature, Volume 2, which is written by W.R. Goodman. This is the Volume 2, and this one is Volume 1, what I have done complete overview of these two books. Next one is World Literature. This one is also quite crucial, because few important things I have not got from these two books, what I have tried to go through, and even I have found out important notes about the important, prominent scholars. Next one is PGT English, which is written by R. Gupta. That is also quite essential, because few important things are mentioned over here, and I have tried to go through and I have tried to note down all these things in my notes. Next one is PGT English, which is published by Upcast Publication, and that is also quite essential, because in this book everything is mentioned over here, but the fact is that that is not updated. But I have tried to pick out the important areas which may come in your examination. Those things. And the last one is History of Indian English Literature, which is written by M.K. Nayak. So on the whole, I want to say that close observation or overview I have done of 5 or 6 literature books, and after going through the different literature books, I have tried to prepare complete notes for PGT, TGT English examination. So those who are preparing for this sort of examination, they may have a look of all these notes. So let's begin. Actually, one of my student, he has written all these things, so there might be a little bit problem to understand, but I will try to convince you as far possible. So this is the first page, which is written on Wordsworth, and I have tried to cover the whole fact, or you could say the complete bibliography or the important facts about Wordsworth. Have a look at it. Wordsworth was born in 1770 at Cockermouth. Now you may ask me that is there any possibility to come these sort of questions? Yes, I may say, because I have gone through the I have gone through few question papers, and in all those question papers, sometimes I have found out that regarding the birthplace, they have given questions. So birthplace, date, these things are also quite necessary, but try to remember the name of birthplace. This is quite essential. Next one. So he was born in Cockermouth. Next one. He was second child of the family. Third one, his mother died when he was 8 years old. His father died when he was 13 years old. So these are the important facts what you need to write. In October 1787, Wordsworth went to St. John's College, Cambridge. These sort of questions, when he had, he had gone to St. John's College, Cambridge, these sort of questions, and there may be 3 or 4 options, but you have to pick out the right option. Next one, in July 1790, he made a trip to Alps. This sort of question may be asked, when he has gone to Alps in 1790. Prelude. Now he has written one prominent poem, which is Prelude, and what is mentioned in this poem? The joys and hopes of childhood. That means that is quite autobiographical, where he has mentioned the joys and hopes of his childhood. So next point is that first visit to France, that is little bit mistake my student has done, that will be France. So first visit to France in 1790. Second visit to France, that is in 1791. So there might be one questions that when he had gone to France, the first visit or second visit. Next question. He came under influence of Godwin. This when he had gone to France, he came under the influence of the famous philosopher Godwin. So even I have got three times This sort of questions I have got in 3 times in 3 different question papers. Next one, Borderers, a tragedy written under influence of Godwin. So this is the tragedy which he has written. At first he has written under the influence of Godwin because he convinced him to write a tragedy of, and that is the tragedy which he has written under the influence of Godwin, but it was not too much successful. Dorothy drew him away from Godwin. Dorothy, his sister, Dorothy Wordsworth, his sister, drew him away from Godwin because she knew him very well that Wordsworth has capability in the field of nature. So he could be famous in the field of nature. So that's why she drew him away from Godwin, because Godwin tried to convince him. Godwin tried to make him famous in the field of philosophy, but Wordsworth didn't have that kind of potentiality to cherish philosophy. Next point, please. He tried to write The Recluse. So this is the attempt. Actually, it was his intention to write a famous poem, The Recluse, but somehow that is incompleted. The first part of The Recluse, the Prelude and Excursion, these 2 poems, the Prelude and the Excursion, these two poems, you can say the Prelude is autobiographical or quite, and these 2 poems are the first part of The Recluse, because it was his attempt. He tried to write a famous poem which will be based on lot of concept, and that's why he tried to write. But the fact is that he was not able to complete this poem, The Recluse. But these 2 poems, the Prelude and Excursion, these are the first part of Recluse. There might be questions. That write down the first part. What are the first part? Which things are mentioned? Which poems are mentioned in the first part? The Prelude and Excursion. Most fruitful years of his life, 1797 to 1814. Now, this I have got 4 times or 5 times, I think 4 times or 5 times in different question papers, that what was the fruitful years of his age or of his life. That is 1797 to 1814, because this is the time when, or this is the time period when he has written most of his famous works. Next one, please. Publishing of lyrical ballads in 1791. This is the turning point, or you can say transitional period. This is the period 1798 when a new period started. This is known as, Romantic period. This is the famous poem, lyrical ballad, which he has written in support of William Wordsworth. S.T. Coleridge. Coleridge contributed The Ancient Mariner in lyrical ballads. Please try to note down. This is another. So both these 2 poets, Coleridge and Wordsworth, they have written the famous poem Lyrical Ballads in 1798. Here Coleridge has given his contribution. He has given his contribution in the form of The Ancient Mariner. This is also quite famous poem which is written by Coleridge, and he has mentioned it in Lyrical Ballads. Posthumously published poem, The Prelude. Posthumously published means there might be one kind of questions that write down the name of the poem which is posthumously published. Posthumously means after the passing away from the world, if any work is to be published, that is known as posthumously published. So here the Prelude, it is not published during his lifetime, rather it is published after the death of the famous poet Wordsworth. Dorothy Wordsworth Coleridge went to Germany in 1798. So there might be questions that these 3 persons have gone to Germany in 1798. Next, in 1802, married to Mary Hutchinson. So there might be question the name of his wife, the year when he got married. Next, in 1813, appointed as distributor of stamps. So there might be questions when he was appointed as distributor of stamps in 1813. Poet laureateship, 1843, when he had got poet laureateship in 1843. Lyrical ballads written Wordsworth and Coleridge. So I told you earlier that this is the famous poem which is written by both these 2 poets, Wordsworth and Coleridge. Next one, lyrical ballads consisted of 23 poems. This may be the crucial point or crucial fact of his life, that how many poems he has mentioned in lyrical ballads. 23 poems. Now another thing, 19 written by Wordsworth and 4 written by Coleridge. So in lyrical ballads, 19 poems Wordsworth has given contribution. He has written 19 poems in lyrical ballads, while Coleridge has given his contribution after writing, after giving 4 poems. So poems of Wordsworth in lyrical ballads, these are the famous poems which he has mentioned in the lyrical ballads. Goody Blake, Harry Gill, Simon Lee, The Old Huntsman, and The Tinterneve. Tinterneve, you may know it. These are the famous poems which he has mentioned in, and etc. also, and rest of the poems I have not mentioned. So these are the poems which is mentioned in lyrical ballad. This is not a single poem, rather you can say a collection of poems. The autobiographical poem Prelude. So his famous poem, The Prelude, is none but autobiographical. I told you earlier. The books, total books in Prelude in 14. So total books in Prelude, he has written 14 books. 14 books are there, or 14 segments you can say in Prelude. Prelude was started to write in 1799 and completed in 1805. So approximately 6 years he has taken to finish Prelude. It was started in 1799 and completed in 1805. Prelude is addressed to Coleridge. So there might be one question, to whom he has addressed Prelude. He has addressed famous poem Prelude to Coleridge. The subtitle of the Prelude, Growth of Poet's Mind. So there might be questions that what is the subtitle of Prelude? Growth of Poet's Mind. That is the subtitle of the famous poem Prelude. Next one. This is the modern epic, the Prelude by Abercrombie. So after writing famous writings, most of the critics, they usually give their own opinion. So this is the opinion of Abercrombie, who was a famous critic who has given his own opinion, and this is the famous quotation what he has given. This is the modern epic. So there might be this sort of questions is basically I have found in most of the questions, in most of the question papers written in blank verse. So there might be one kind of questions that Prelude is written in which form. That is written in blank verse. Book 1. So I am giving you complete elaboration of the Prelude, what is mentioned in book 1, what is mentioned in book 2, and all these things I will try to mention. So please listen. Book 1, experience of boyhood, infancy and childhood. In book 1 he has mentioned experience of boyhood, infancy and childhood. These 3 areas he tried to mention in book 1. Book 2, during the Hogshead days. So he started staying after spending his early life. He started staying in Hogshead days, so, which is mentioned in book 2. Book 3, here it is. Book 3, entitled as Residence at Cambridge, about Cambridge days. So entitled means that is the title of book 3, Residence at Cambridge. Here in book 3 he has mentioned about the Cambridge days. That means he stayed there for a long time, and what has happened in his life he has mentioned in book 3 in Cambridge. Book 4, about native landscape. That is the question which has come in 3 or 4 times. That is the question which has come 4 times in different question papers. About native landscapes. Native landscape means his own native landscape he has mentioned in book 4. Book 5, about Shakespeare, Milton and other great poets. So in book 5 he has mentioned about Shakespeare, Milton and other great poets. Book 6, entitled as Cambridge and Alps. So book 6 and book 3, these 2 books have got its title, and here book 6 is entitled as Cambridge and Alps. About visit to Alps, what he has written in book 6, what is the basic concept of book 6? About visit to Alps he has mentioned, when he has gone to Alps. I already told you. Book 7, London life. So in book 7 he has mentioned the life which he has spent in London. Book 8, entitled as Retrospect. Now this is also quite crucial question which may come, because already I have seen in few question papers. So book 8 has got another title, that is what? Retrospect. So remember. Book 9, 10 and 11 about revolution in France. I told you he has gone to France, and there he came under the influence of Godwin. So at that moment also he has devoted his book 9, 10 and 11, where he has mentioned about the revolution which has come in France. Came under the influence of BOP, September, Massachusetts in Paris. So he also came under the influence of BOP. He was also famous, philosopher. Last portion of book 11, Moral Crisis of Wordsworth after Revolution. Actually, I was unable to study it, so that's why. So after Revolution, Moral Crisis of Wordsworth, it has come in his life. That's why he has mentioned in his last part of the book, last portion of book 11, he has mentioned his moral crisis of Wordsworth. Book 12 and 13 about the influence of Dorothy and nature. Now, this is the quite essential thing, where, because there might be questions that where he has mentioned about the influence of his daughter, of his sister. That is the book 13 and 12, where he has mentioned about the influence of nature in Wordsworth, because these two are persons. So these two, one is the person and another is nature, who influenced too much in his life. Book 14 about Alfoxden life in company with Dorothy and Wordsworth, because he has spent few time in Alfoxden with his sister and Coleridge, which he has mentioned in book 14. So these are the complete elaboration of prelude of 14 books. 14 books. I have told you one by one, which are mentioned in book from book 1 to book 14. So there might be one or two questions from this area, that what is mentioned in book 14, book 13, book 12. So try to remember all these things. The introduction of the recluse, the prelude. So prelude is the introduction of the recluse. I told you earlier the recluse is the famous poem which he tried to write, and this is the introductory portion. The recluse consists of three parts. So the recluse, what he tried to write, but it was unfortunately unsuccessful. The first person, that is, I already told you that the prelude and excursion, these two poems are the beginning of recluse. The excursion is one of them. The excursion is also included in that. The excursion consists of 9 books. Now, so prelude, I told you, in prelude there are 14 books, and in excursion there are 9 books which he has mentioned. So now this is the excursion, complete elaboration of excursion. Already I have given you complete elaboration of prelude. Now this is the time when we need to go through excursion, where he has given complete elaboration of 9 books with different concept. In book 1, what he has mentioned, the mental history of the wanderers protest against science. This is the basic concept of book 1. In book 4 and book 6, lack of spiritual sight. This is the basic concept of book 4 and book 6. Another poem, Lodamia, which is written very late in his life, in 1814, written in classic myth. So Lodamia is the poem which is written in classic myth. Protelius, a character in Lodamia. So there might be questions regarding the characters. So Protelius is one character in Lodamia. Tinterneve. Now these are the important facts. Tinterneve, he has written in 1798. My Heart Lifts Up, which is written in 1802. The Solitary Pair, 1803. I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud. This is also one of the famous poems what he has written. 1804. Ode to Duty, 1805. Wordsworth. So these are the famous poems which he has written. So sometimes there might be questions regarding the poems and the date of publication. So that's why I have given you. Wordsworth sonnet revived by Thomas Warton and cultivated by Boyles. So these are the questions which most of the time the students skip these areas, but these are the important facts what may come in the exam, that who has revived and who has cultivated. Thomas Warton and Boyles. Wordsworth wrote more than 500 sonnets. So there might be one question, because I have seen in two times or 3 times that who is the person who has written most numbers of sonnets. Here none but Wordsworth. He has written most number of sonnets in English. It is a beauteous evening, calm and free, which is written, this is also one kind of sonnet, which is written in 1802 to 1807, addressed to nature daughter Anne Caroline. So this is the famous sonnet which is written, and he addressed this sonnet to nature daughter Anne Caroline. He has not addressed. Sometimes in most of the literature books I have found out he has addressed Dorothy Wordsworth, but that is not true. He has addressed this poem to nature daughter Anne Caroline. So till now I will continue in the next video.